Before I start with this lesson, I apologize for not getting this to you earlier. I am streamlining the course and developing some handouts and support materials for you, and that has been a bit more than I anticipated. This lesson is about writing. Basically, it's a lesson in grammar. Since I don't know how much you know about grammar, you might find some of the handouts I posted a bit simplistic. That's okay. You don't have to save those. The important thing to think about in terms of writing style, just as I previously said about APA style, is that it takes both time and practice. Scientific writing has its own voice with appropriate levels of formality and objectivity and is a bit different than the way you're used to writing. I think if you're a good writer, you will catch on to scientific writing fairly quickly, and you will probably just need to do more editing initially. Scholarly writing is clear, concise, and consistent. You want to avoid slang words, excessive use of first person, contractions, passive voice, and quotations. Paraphrase rather than use a direct quote. You also want to avoid wordiness. It always bothers me when students are concerned about the word and/or page limits on an assignment. Granted, you need some direction, but you never want to be padding your writing. Scientific writing is to the point, clear, precise, and with a smooth flow from idea to idea. You will need practice, and more practice. And you should get into the habit of editing, reading over your writing, checking for the things I just mentioned. Make sure that each sentence says only what it needs to say. Scientific writing does not have to be boring. You're telling a story, and although it may not be conversational tone, it should be clear and concise. Remember that you are both educating and persuading your reader, but consider who your reader is in terms of how you're doing this. You want to pay attention to the flow and continuity. In the future, we'll be examining articles, and you'll learn what goes where in the article. It's important to follow those rules. You want to transition from paragraph to paragraph because this is from idea or evidence to another idea or evidence. Think about the point of that paragraph. It should be consistent and complete before moving on to the next. If it isn't, that's probably a sign that you need to get more research evidence. I mentioned earlier that this section is on grammar. Here's a list of things that you should pay attention to. I'm not going to go into detail on these. You read about them in the manual. I have put some advice tips on Canvas for you listed by the topic. Instead, let me just take a moment to mention the 3 things listed to avoid. First, anthropomorphism. You might remember this from child development. Children often attribute human attributes to non-humans. So on a rainy day, a child might tell you the sky is crying. In research, I often see some common examples of this mistake. Remember, as a general rule, inanimate objects do not perform actions. Therefore, a study does not suggest. Experiments do not demonstrate. Data does not indicate. And research does not find. You need to think of another way to say each of these. Second, jargon and slang. This is pretty self-explanatory, but not a semester goes by that someone doesn't write about kids. Really? Use children, never kids. Finally, contractions. I won't, you shouldn't, they can't use contractions in scientific writing. It becomes I would not, you should not, and they cannot when writing in scientific writing. Finally, I want to end with some common confused words in psychology. I've expanded on these in the module for this lesson. I just want to note one, and that is the difference between causal and causal. A mistake that many students make, although I think it is more often a spelling error than a misuse of the term. Remember to go on the modules in Canvas and work your way through the materials I have provided. You should have read chapters 4 and 5 in the publication manual for this lesson, and if you haven't already submitted your formatted paper from last class, be sure to do that now. Our next lesson is on the mechanics of style. This is moving away from the English grammar lessons and more into the strict rules of APA. It is intricate, so I have again created some tip sheets for you to use here. Again, this material is material you will learn through practice.